Hi there, and welcome to the Rejection Diaries Season 2. Tonight, I am joined for this episode by Josie Smith, an author, and we're going to be discussing her journey as an author, the challenges that she has faced, and obviously everyone faces as a querying author, and the part that rejection has played in that. Hi, Josie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a real delight to have you on. Before we get stuck into the main topic of the show, which is about rejection, could you tell the people that are listening just a little bit about yourself, where you started writing, where your journey began?
I tend to write mostly YA, and I always like to joke that I fell into it through reading YA and then just sort of never stopped because even now I mostly read YA and not adult. But I was one of those early birds that I started writing my first novel at 10 because I'm like, hey, I can do it. If everyone else can, why not me? And then I didn't start getting serious about it and start querying until I was 15 and in high school. So definitely a little earlier than I know some people's journeys began, but it's been an exciting road all the same.
Oh, brilliant! And what was it that sort of first got you started? Was there a particular book that you read and you thought, oh, I'd love to try, writing, or um, did it come from somewhere else? The spark.
It was my first love was always fantasy, and so especially after reading like Ella Enchanted, Bridge to Terabithia, all the classics, all the classic portal fantasies especially, I decided I wanted to write one of my own about a girl that I could relate to and stuff. And I think, through wanting to find ourselves in books is where a lot of us begin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I think it's a starting point for so many authors. So you started writing, and how did that go for you initially? Did you do some courses? Did you just sort of fly by the seat of your pants and give writing the whole novel a go straight off? How did it start off for you?
I started, yeah, like I mentioned, I started writing my very first at 10, worked on it on and off till I was like 14. I think even now it's only like 10,000 words. I really didn't get very far, but yeah, then I really got serious and did research on how to like outline and stuff in high school and sat down and finished my first at 15. And it was a hot mess, but I decided to query it anyway. And yeah, I mostly relied on blog posts online. I was young in high school, so there weren't really many creative writing courses available for me yet. But yeah, I mean, there's so many resources on the internet that are great. NaNoWriMo, the site has a lot of good stuff I remember finding. So yeah, just even a quick Google search will get you most of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really is so much good content out there. So you finished that first novel. What age were you when you finished?
It was 15.
15, yeah. And so you sent it out to agents at that point?
I did, and I would like to sincerely apologize to any agent that had to read 15-year-old me's work. I don't like reading 15-year-old me's work, but no, I mean, I definitely learned a lot, like even just learning how to write a query letter and, like what comp titles were and things like that. It's such a learning curve right when you're first beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in a similar boat where I would never share that first book with with anyone, and similarly would apologise to all the agents who read it. So, um, did was it a universally rejected novel, that first one that you sent out? Did you get any sort of positive feedback from your querying?
No, it was mostly, yeah, form rejections. I think it took
Yeah.
me another like two or three queried novels before I started getting requests.
Okay. So take us on to that then. The first one, obviously, you were quite young and so on. You sent that out. Where did you go from there, and like what's the sort of timeline in terms of the next couple of novels?
Yeah, so I had queried, yeah, I was a sophomore in high school when I kind of queried that first novel and then just kind of kept writing. I probably should have paid more attention in class rather than all the writing I did. But no, I wrote, yeah, I think after that one I queried two or three more and not really any bites. But it's really interesting looking back now because I can kind of see my writing growing with me. And I did start young, but I think to my credit too, I was just very young and I really, didn't have a whole lot of life experience to write from then. And then, yeah, and then my almost before I graduated, my senior year of high school, I finished a historical that I still love very much. And I sent that one out and was amazed. It was like a switch had flipped. I went from form nothing but form rejections to suddenly like getting, interest in Twitter pitch contests and getting requests for my query. And, I was 17, 18. I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, that's amazing though. Especially at that age and only on your second novel getting so much attention. So what was the sort of final result from that novel? Did you did anyone make any offers, or was it all passes in the end?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was passing at the end. I think I know historical and YA especially is a tough genre, and everything in this industry is so subjective. And I did sort of my crowning achievement with that one was I was able to I was one of the finalists in Rev Pit 2019. I was chosen with an editor or chosen by an editor to work on that novel, and really I learned a ton of editing from that contest. And it was even though unfortunately nobody ended up signing that, it was a great experience. And I think that was the book that really showed me that, like, yeah, I could do this. This was a career I wanted.
Yeah, no, and it's such a breakthrough moment, that isn't it, when you suddenly start getting some positive feedback on the work, because there is that glimmer of hope and a bit of something that gives you a bit of fire to keep going, and think that possibly one day we can do this.
Yeah, absolutely
Um,
right.
yeah, so that's amazing. So obviously RevPit. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience? What did that involve, and what did you learn from it?
So it's I think it's kind of exploded in the last year or two, but it was a bit of a smaller contest but it's similar to like Pitch Wars, Author Mentor Match, Right Mentor, where it is a mentorship program. This one specifically with professional editors, not other authors. And so it was shorter the timeline. I had about 5 weeks to go basically tear apart my entire book and do 2 rounds of editing on it. The editor I worked with was so fantastic. But yeah, she did not pull her punches. I think, yeah, and it was finals week at the same time, so I think I ended up rewriting entirely from scratch about half the book and doing another round of just sort of line edits. And yeah, it's definitely a lot stronger. But I also, since I was sort of self-taught through blog posts basically, it was really nice being able to learn like how to rip apart a book like that and really learn a lot about like pacing and just like even just simpler things that I thought I had, by that point I thought I was good with, that like, oh wait, no, I still do this. I have trouble with like over explaining things to the reader. And so having other eyes on your work was really valuable too. And then it also taught me, I kind of found out through that experience that I really love editing. And as much as I want to get published, I also want to work now on the editing agenting side of publishing. So through the skills I picked up in RevPit, I was able to get my first publishing internship with a literary agent. So really, that contest opened a lot of doors for me and taught me so much of what I now cherish.
That's amazing. And it's so, and these opportunities are so invaluable, aren't they? And as you say, like that's sort of inspires you to go into another avenue within publishing as well, which is amazing. Um, so you wrote that second novel, you did Rev Pit, you queried it, and and you came quite close. How how did the two experiences of rejection compare between that first novel and that second novel? How did was it quite crushing with the first one and a bit more positive with the second one, or how did the two experiences compare with each other?
It was more heartbreaking the second one. I think there was definitely a lot more hope involved in that, especially once I got into Rev Pit and was getting requests. The first one, once you pass like, your first 10, 20 form rejections, you sort of almost lose that hope. And then it's, you kind of get numb and you're like, all right, well, maybe next book, it just won't be this one. But yeah, well, then when you get to another one where it's a lot more successful, you really keep that hope. And it just, yeah. And then when it doesn't pan out, it really was when I learned how tough this industry could be. And especially as the kind of, I guess it's been about 2 years now, and a lot of the people in my RevPit cohort have gone on to get agents and even book deals for a couple of them, and it's so great. I love seeing on my timeline when anybody from Rev Pit is like doing well. I cheer them on, but at the same time, there's that little twinge of like jealousy, like, oh gosh, why can't I be there? Why isn't that me? And so being able to cheer on the successes of others while knowing, hey, your day in the sun's coming too is a really important thing I've learned as well. Eyes on your own page all the time. Otherwise, just the depression will eat you alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And community and having writers alongside you, sharing that journey, I think is such an important and powerful thing, isn't it, for authors?
Yeah, that's what's helped me a lot actually too. Just finding other people who understand the struggle. Trying to go through the query trenches alone is just impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that brings us on then to novel three. Um,
Yeah, and that one was high hopes. I think that was probably the most painful one because it was like number 2 where it got a lot of requests, but ultimately just was not the right time or place. And so, just yeah, that's where I am now, honestly, just sort of writing, editing, and fingers crossed that one day one of these next ones will pan out and be the one that an agent falls in love with.
yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about perseverance, just continuing to um, love the creative aspect of it just for the sake of the creativity, as opposed to the outcome or the external verification of I guess signing with an agent or getting a publishing deal. Um, is that side of things a hugely important factor for you? The creative side and helping you move on from disappointment.
Yeah, it really is, especially, when that inspiration strikes. And that's for me, like, first draft is my favorite part of the process because that's where all the joy is. And so every time I have to like shelve one, I swear to myself I'm not going through this again, and then I get another idea, and it's the thing I love most in the world, and so I can't stay away from it no matter how many times I promise myself I won't put up with the rejection. But yeah, I think being able to always find the joy in it, remember why you want to do this, is what does get, at least me personally, was what gets me through the worst days in the trenches.
Yeah, and one thing I always find really interesting about writers is how. So, do you have like a set routine for writing? Is there like I don't know, like a thing that you do every day, or is it weekly, or are you more like you wait for the inspiration to strike and you write lots in a quite intense period? How does your writing routine work?
I tend to only do about 1 or 2 first drafts a year, but and I'll do them in a month, but it's a really chaotic month. I find yeah, I call them lightning strike ideas, where I'll get a little, every once in a while you get a, "Hey, what if?" or "That would be cool," but I know when it's an idea I wanna write write because it hits like a lightning strike. And so I try to, like, take all of that excitement and just throw out a first draft, and they're always really chaotic, but when I'm that passionate about it, I'll like write in every spare minute. And so it's like that, whatever month that is just NaNoWriMo for me. And so, yeah, that's what I found works best for my drafting process because I can edit the messy first draft once it's down. But I'm jealous of people who can stick with a regular writing routine. I've tried that, but I mean, I'm a full time student with 2 other internships during the year, so any spare moment I have is, they come fleetingly. So, yeah, trying to stick with a regular writing routine just because every day of mine is different. I never know what the day is going to look like or if I'm even going to have time to be at my computer. So those lightning strike ideas and just writing in every spare moment is how I get my drafts done.
That's so interesting to hear. I love hearing about how different and varied different writers' processes are. Like, you get those people who are very disciplined and will sit and write 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 words a
Amazing.
day.
I love that. That's
But yeah,
amazing.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, and you get obviously other people who are more they write in bursts, quite intensely, and that's obviously the camp that you belong in more. I wanted to ask as well, what are you going to be working on next? Then, what's the next project that you're potentially going to be querying? Is it another? Is it a YA fantasy or is it something a bit different?
The last year or so I've had, I think everyone's been feeling that burnout with COVID and everything. And so I was having trouble like finding that joy again in writing. And so I'm actually doing NaNoWriMo starting in, I guess, like at the time of recording, 2 days. And
Yeah.
so I just wanted to write something entirely for me. And it's an NA fantasy, which I know are both kisses of death right now. But, I might not even edit it. Just something to get me back into writing and enjoy the process again.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think that's definitely what we all need to sort of recharge and refuel the creative batteries, because it has been a tough time and there's not necessarily been so much positive inspiration, in the world around us to
Yeah.
to draw from. So yeah, that sounds perfect. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was, if you had an opportunity to speak to your younger self, say your 15-year-old self or your 2019 version of you, and give them some sort of hard earned experience or advice or tips that you've picked up since, what do you think you would say to them? Because I think a lot of people listening will have had similar journeys to you and will really relate to what you're saying, and this could be, something that really helps them.
Yeah, oh goodness, that's a hard question. I think definitely first off, don't let yourself become bitter. It's easy to become bitter in the trenches, but it really is just so subjective and timing is such a big part of it. And so just keep that hope. And if you're feeling burnt out, don't be afraid to take a break, step back, write something that is just fun for you. Don't worry about if it's going to sell, but don't lose that joy and that hope in the process either.
Perfect, and I think that's a lovely sentiment just to finish on. Josie, thanks so much for joining me and chatting and being so honest and sharing so much and giving us such insights and some good advice and tips as well about your process.
It was really great being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.